Hello, Meadowbrook students. Do you recognize who I am? Well, maybe you do now. Well, you're right. It's Mrs. Knock in her mask. And by the way, I made this mask and making them for family and friends. But that's not why we're here. Your counselors, Ms. Garza, Ms. Pablo, and myself found some information we thought might be really helpful during this time of distance learning, and we wanted to share it with you. Before we get started, I want to show you the sign next to me so you can see that I'm social distancing. Let's get started. So, to share this information, we thought it'd be a little bit more interesting to take you on a scenic walk. So here goes. I hear people talking about the virus, the logistics of being at home, and what we're missing. What we may not hear is this. Our entire planet, for the very first time, is simultaneously going through a process of grief. We are all in grief, knowingly or unknowingly, whether we acknowledge it or not, we are all in grief. And the question is, what are we grieving? We are grieving the loss of how we used to live our lives. The way we were living our lives weeks ago, we've lost that. It's been taken from us. We are no longer able to gather together at restaurants, at school, at the movies, concerts, sporting events, and social gatherings. And that loss is like any other loss. We often associate loss with the death of a loved one. We are experiencing another kind of loss. And with that loss is a process that includes 5 stages. These 5 stages are denial, anger, depression, acceptance, and hope. The characteristics of denial are things like fear, shock, confusion, and avoidance. The characteristics of anger are anxiety, irritability, and depression is feeling overwhelmed, helpless, wanting to run away. It is important to acknowledge these stages because it gives us a structure within which to view what's happening to us right now and helps us to acknowledge the loss. I need to catch my breath. Anyway, it helps us acknowledge the loss, our feelings, and move into acceptance. When we embrace and acknowledge these stages, we can move through them. When we refuse to acknowledge what's happening, we drag the process out. Denial, anger, and depression are how we react initially. We're trying to move into acceptance and hope. We're looking for meaning. We're reaching out to others. Acceptance is where we begin. Looking beyond what's happening now, we accept it. We embrace it. And we say, okay, what's next? Where do we go? It's important to acknowledge what is happening to us and recognize the stages as a normal process. If we notice that we continue to cycle through denial, anger, and depression, how do we move into acceptance and hope? We may be holding on to the life we had weeks ago. That's a struggle. The suffering, because that world is not present now. If we can let go of what should be and be present with what we are dealing with right now and do what we need to do to get through this in a healthy way, we'll be better people, stronger because of what we have gone through. The optimism we can share is knowing we can embrace this in a healthy way. An example that I experienced was the loss of seeing students at school. And then I realized the school counselors had no direct way of reaching out to students. I was frustrated. I was angry. So we decided, the counselors, that setting up classes, 1 for 6th, 1 for 7th, and 1 for 8th grades in Canvas would be a platform that would allow us to provide support to students directly. Not having ever used Canvas, we had a huge learning curve, and that was frustrating from time to time. I definitely experienced the stages of depression and anger. Now, having accomplished this task, I'm hopeful. As students are accessing the course, it makes me feel happy. The counselors have a direct connection and can support students. In order to get your responses to this video, we have included a survey that we ask you to complete, or you can directly contact one of the counselors through email. We will respond and decide how and when to connect. You'll find access to the survey on a link below the video link. Let's get started. Let's get connected.